Hello, everyone. Welcome. It's just about 7 o'clock, so why don't we go ahead and get started. My name is Jennifer Lee, and I work for the City of Burlingame, and I'm one of the co-hosts for tonight's program. Joining me tonight is Alexandra Shaw from the City of Sunnyvale, who you'll hear from later tonight. And along with our co-sponsor, Bosca, and our instructor, I want to welcome all of you to our class. All right, next slide, please. Before we begin our program, I'm going to go over some housekeeping. First, all attendees are muted by default. And secondly, the instructor will be pausing periodically for questions. And we highly encourage you to ask questions that you have. If you would like to do so, you can either use the raise hand feature, where we'll call upon you and you can unmute yourself. Or the second option is to use the Q&A, which I will go ahead and read the questions to the instructor, or we may respond directly to chat or hold them off for Q&A at the very end. And lastly, this webinar is being recorded and will be made available on Bosca's website afterwards. First, I would like to give a brief background on Bosca. Bosca is a special district that represents the interests of 26 cities, water districts, and private water companies, all of which purchase wholesale water from the San Francisco Regional Water System. Bosca member agencies collectively serve over 1.8 million residents and 40,000 businesses in Alameda, Santa Clara, and San Mateo counties. Their goal is to ensure high quality supply of water at a fair price for the member agencies and their customers. And consistent with that goal, Bosca provides a regional water conservation program to support agencies in improving water use efficiency. Outdoor water provides the single biggest potential source of untapped savings, where reducing outdoor water use through water efficient plants and innovative techniques can help conserve water to ensure that future water supply needs of our communities are met. Bosca provides several water conservation programs. The Lawn Be Gone program provides rebates to customers of participating water agencies for replacing their lawn with water efficient landscaping. And the Rain Barrel rebate program provides rebates of up to $200 for the purchase and installation of rain barrels. And now I'll turn it over to Alexandra to talk about some conservation programs at the City of Sunnyvale.
Thanks, Jennifer. Hi, everyone. My name is Alexandra Shaw, and I work for the City of Sunnyvale in the Environmental Services Department. Tonight, I'd like to tell you about the rebates that we offer for replacing your lawns and plants that require a lot of water with drought-tolerant plants or permeable hardscape. Doing this can earn you up to $1 per square foot if you are a resident of Sunnyvale, so look out for that. We also offer rebates for properties that connect a clothes washer machine to a Graywater irrigation system for up to $200. For more information on these plans and rebates, please visit sunnyvale.ca.gov/savewater. The City of Sunnyvale also offers compost and mulch to Sunnyvale, Mountain View, and Palo Alto residents at our Smart Station. The address is 301 Carl Road, Sunnyvale. This is available Monday through Sunday from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. with your own mask, shovel, and container. So hope to see you there. A new addition to Bosca is the Smart Controller program, which provides instant rebates and heavily discounted pricing on the Ratio 3 irrigation controller. This controller can be operated on your smartphone and normally retails for $280, though through this program, customers of participating water agencies can purchase a controller for $100 plus tax. You can also look out for Bosca's new Rain Garden rebate program, where you can receive an additional $300 rebate for creating a rain garden. Next slide, please. Valley Water is also offering a rebate program where you can replace your lawn with a low water system. You can receive $1 to $2 per square foot in rebates, and you can apply for rebates or efficient irrigation equipment through the link provided in the chat. Go to watersavings.org for more information. Additional information, including videos and resources that Valley Water offers, can be found at the links provided in the chat. And you can also report water waste by emailing waterwise@valleywater.org. If you enjoyed tonight's program, we invite you to join some of our additional upcoming webinar classes. You can view the full schedule and register at bayareaconservation.org/landscape. Furthermore, if you're looking for additional resources on water efficient landscaping, please visit bayareagardening.org, the WaterWise gardening website. This site supports residents in water efficient landscape renovations and management. Thank you so much. And now I will hand it over to Jennifer for a poll activity.
Great. So I'm going to go ahead and actually, I think Frank, since you're the host, can you click on the poll button on the bottom?
Let's see, poll. I do not have a poll button.
Oh, that's weird.
I do have a poll button.
Oh,
I'm wrong.
great. So we've got two questions for you tonight. One is, how familiar are you with gray water systems? Maybe you're very familiar, somewhat familiar, or not at all familiar. And two, we'd like to get a sense of how likely are you to install a laundry to landscape gray water system at home? Are you very likely, as in you're planning to install in the next 6 months? Are you somewhat likely, you just want to do some more research, but you are planning to commit? Somewhat unlikely, you know, maybe it might not work at all for your home, but you just want to make sure first, or are you not at all likely, but you're just curious about this topic? And so Frank, about how many people have responded so far? We can.
15 out of 18.
All right. So maybe we'll give it 10 more seconds and then
16 of 18.
2 more people. All right.
The shy ones.
Don't worry, we won't be able to see who, you know, the individual answers won't show up on screen. So we'll just see as a collective. All right, why don't we go ahead and end the poll, and then you can share the results so we can all see. Oh, not bad. So we've got most people are somewhat familiar. That's great. And it looks like, oh, a lot of people are somewhat likely or very likely to install Graywater. Nice. Well, you're in the right spot. All right. And with that, I will go ahead and pass it over to Frank.
All righty. Let's see here. Where did my PowerPoint go? Hold on a minute. There's always a glitch.
No worries. And actually, while you're looking for that, I'm going to go ahead and introduce our speaker tonight. So Frank has been a gardener for over 50 years, and he has been the past president of the founding chapter of the California Landscape Contractors Association. He was voted Member of the Year by his peers in 2001 and 2004, and he teaches numerous classes at Foothill College. And we just learned this evening that he's also starting a new horticulture class at a juvenile detention center. So with that, please join me in a virtual round of applause for our instructor, Frank.
Okay. I think this is, you can all see my screen, I hope. Okay, we're going to talk about water reuse. We're going to talk about a number of systems tonight, and Graywater is only one of them. And I want to show you some various ways to use Graywater in manners that you may not have thought about before. And that's why I want to do some preliminary upfront stuff first. So where's our water come from? Well, it comes from O'Shaughnessy Dam, which is the Hetch Hetchy Reservoir. This dam and reservoir was a centerpiece. It started delivering water to the San Francisco Bay Area in 1934. It's 167 miles from San Francisco. So the water that you drink today comes out of that reservoir, came out of that reservoir 8 days ago. So it takes 8 days for that water to come down into the San Francisco Bay Area. There has been some renewed interest in removing it, but I just don't think that's going to happen. It's the best way for us to get our water. This is a diagram of where it's all coming from. It's up in the Yosemite National Park where the water comes from. This water is some of the cleanest municipal water in the United States. This is outstanding water. And San Francisco is one of the 6 cities in the United States that is not required by law to filter its tap water. So what you're getting is pretty clean water. It is disinfected, but it is fairly clean water. We also pump. So nearly half of the water in the Santa Clara County is pumped from groundwater. And it's mixed with Hetch Hetchy. We also rely on the snowpack. In the last few years, the snowpack has not been that great. The snowpack is essentially our bank, and the bank is not doing so well right now. We are overdrawn, and the bank is going to foreclose. This is another place where our water comes from, and we get 16.71 inches average per year. This is our average rainfall for our area. Unfortunately, we treat rainwater like wastewater. So downspouts that move the water out into the street or into the storm drain. And that is not a good thing for a number of different reasons. Many of the cities are now changing their laws, saying that any water that's on site needs to remain on site. And yet I still see many homes configuring their water from the downspouts as wastewater by choice. And that needs to end. There is a better way. You can build a dry well where that water goes in. Essentially, it's a big gravel pit. The water goes into the gravel pit and it eventually gets down into the aquifer. That's a way better way. And this is just a basic diagram of what you can do with water that is on your property. Establish some drains, run those drains into dry wells. You can use washing machines, water, which we're going to talk about tonight, landscape drains, and use that water on site. Why are we so concerned about dry wells? Well, we have that big ocean out there, and that water is salt water. And the more water we pull out of the freshwater aquifer, the more the salt water moves in, which contaminates the fresh water. So essentially, this is what we've got when we pump water out of the aquifer. By establishing dry wells in properties, you're actually helping refresh this water table that is underground. So I bring that up just as a possibility. And speaking of possibilities, we have a lot of different possibilities. What to do with water on our sites. You can collect it. You can run downspouts into these large tanks. They're not that expensive anymore. You can definitely collect it. And we'll be talking more about this kind of a system in just a bit. This is some pretty big tankage. There's a couple of houses over in San Mateo. They're former students of mine. And they actually have large tanks this size on their property. And they're capturing about 8,000 gallons a year from rainwater. So this is an excellent way to utilize the rainwater. You can also do rain barrels. The problem with rain barrels is that a 1,000 square foot roof will capture about 625 gallons of water. These rain barrels are only about 50 gallons. So we're actually losing 625 gallons of, well, a little less, about 475 for those of you who are doing the math in their head, or 575. And there's ways that you can actually use that overflow from the rain barrels on your property. And one of the best ways is by doing rain gardens. Why do I bring up rain gardens? Because you can also use your gray water in these rain gardens. The whole key is that we need to learn how to plant the rain. And that's what these rain gardens do. They plant the rain. Essentially, when you look at the dynamics of these rain gardens, the water is coming out of the sky, coming out of our downspouts, coming out of our graywater systems, and that water can be mixed and used in rain gardens. A lot of the cities are doing that now. You know, we're seeing a lot of strategies by cutting the curbs, allowing that water to percolate into these rain gardens. It's essentially planting the rain, which is a concept that has come of favor in the last few years. This is a rain garden. The water is coming off the downspouts, and it's slowed down by rocks, boulders, and cobble, and percolates into the ground in and around these plants, and essentially irrigates them. These rain gardens use a plant that is near and dear to our hearts, California native plants, and they thrive in these kinds of rain gardens. They're also great habitat for bees, butterflies, and beneficial insects. If you're interested in rain gardens, there's a couple of books that I highly recommend by Brad Lancaster. I would recommend the first one. And if you get into the first one, then buy the second one. But I, in my opinion, the first book will get you through harvesting the rain and planting the rain. So essentially, this is what the rain garden looks like. Using stone to slow down the water. You want that water to percolate into the soil and reach the root zone of your plants. This is another method. A lot of the cities are doing this now. They're cutting the curb and allowing that water to percolate through. This is a homeowner style. So the downspouts on either side are picked up and ran through this rain garden. And as I said, I'm showing you this because this is an excellent way to use your gray water. You can, and I'm going to show you how to do that in just a bit. A lot of the cities are looking at rain gardens. This is a large one. This is the McGoldrick Learning Commons at the Lemieux Library. It's up north. And they're capturing a lot of rainwater and running it through their gardens. This is a part of that same system. And the system is quite nice. So these rain gardens are using plants that are used to the California native environments. And so they will establish deep roots. When I say plant the rain, this is what happens when that rain water from the gutters and the downspouts, and conversely from your gray water system, gets into the garden. It establishes a lot of deep roots. It encourages them, as a matter of fact. You're using these berms to hold the water in the garden during heavy rains. And it is also very beneficial use for gray water. So this is essentially a slide that shows gray water use or downspout gutter use. There's no reason why that hose from the rainwater cannot be put in this same dry stream bed. So you're doubling the use of this kind of a garden, because when it rains, you're channeling that water into your rain gardens. When it's not raining, you are channeling that water from your gray water into the same garden plan. And I'll show you a couple of different ways you can do that. So this is a rain garden that's up in, I believe this is up in Seattle. They did quite a few of these because it's much cheaper to do this than establish a new storm drain. There's another shot of that. It's quite interesting how this came out. These rain gardens, there were 15 of these installed. Another benefit of these rain gardens is that the first rain is essentially a disaster, mainly because all the chemicals that have accumulated on the street from our vehicles, overflow from radiators, oil, gas, everything flows into the gutter, into the storm drain. Well, with these kinds of systems, these plants now act as filters, and they filter out a lot of the pollutants and ease the strain on stormwater detention, especially the stormwater detention ponds. So this is an excellent way to use not only your gray water, but also to capture rainwater. This is another photograph of a large system. It's quite nice. It's a convention center. Another shot of it. You can see the plants and the rocks that are slowing down the water, picking up all the runoff from this system and irrigating. So, this is a great shot. This really shows how this system works. The water just comes through these spillways and it's slowed down so the roots of the plants can pick it up. So let's talk about what gray water is and what it isn't. So clean water is water from springs, wells, it's purified water, it's city water, it's rainwater, it's clean water. Gray water is used water without toxic chemicals or excrement. Black water is contaminated water with toxic chemicals and or excrement. The most important concept to understand about gray water is that by pouring 5 gallons into a hole in the ground every day does not mean you're saving gallons and gallons and gallons of water. You're dumping 5 gallons of water in a hole. What you really want to do is take plants that only need 1 gallon of that water and split that 5 gallons into 5 plants. That is a conscious use of gray water. So when we talk about gray water, there are things that it is and things that it isn't. It can only be a water conservation tool if it's used properly. And that's one of the goals of this seminar, is to teach you how to use it properly. So essentially, gray water is wastewater from showers, bath, hand basins, and laundry. It does not include water from the toilet or laundry if the wash includes soiled items like diapers. You don't want to put that into the landscape. The average person generates 25 gallons of gray water each day. So if you have a household of 4, that household is producing approximately enough water, gray water, to irrigate a 2,400 square foot garden in a semi-dry climate. So you're producing about 100 gallons of water a day in a family of 4. Untreated gray water cannot be saved. It has to be used within 24 hours. And the reason is that the bacteria can multiply to unsafe levels. Plants have been dealing with bacteria for 1 billion years, and so they know how to take care of bacteria. So that water needs to go into a planting system. If you're treating gray water, and there are treatments to it, you can store it. The problem is that the treatment systems are not very economical for residential properties. So use the water, set up your system in a manner in which the water can move through the system that you've built and is used by the plant material. Gray water is cheaper to harvest than rainwater. If you have very little rain over a 3-month period, a family of 4 can reuse over 3,000 gallons of gray water a month. If we looked at that, you would need a cistern that could hold 9,000 gallons. 9,000 gallons. Instead of doing that, if you took those 3,000 gallons and moved them through your garden in a manner in which it is irrigating your entire garden, that's conservation. So what is in rainwater? Well, in ordinary, and I'll make a distinction here. If you're using conventional detergents in your laundry, there's approximately 290 chemical constituents that is part of that chemistry. When we switch to a gray water system, we have to change our mindset to use products that have a lower chemical constituent so that it doesn't damage the plants. In gray water, in proper gray water, we found 39 compounds from gray water that are potentially problematic pollutants in environmental hazard identification. And so when you talk about gray water, you need to also understand that there is a slight risk to discharging this gray water in your garden. It does take a different mindset by changing your detergent types, and I'm going to give you some detergent types in just a minute. Laundry gray water usually contains varying levels of suspended solids, salts, nutrients, organic matter, and pathogens. These arise from washing clothes using detergents. The public health risks are very well studied and have been determined to be safe if used properly in the gardens. When we look at ordinary laundry detergents, they contain a large range of chemical substances that include surfactants, bleaching agents, and auxiliary agents or additives. A large proportion of these laundry ingredients are essentially non-volatile compounds dominated by salts. Some of the salts present in gray water can be beneficial to plants, particularly as nutrients, although there is a chance that some of these salts can be toxic to plants. So proper movement of the laundry water throughout the landscape is the key here to keep salts from building up to a toxic level for your plants. So this is a really simple gray water system coming out of the laundry, and it is essentially moving water left and right. You can see the rings of dispersing hose around the base of these trees. And you also see a dispersal system in the planter bed, which works quite well. I'm asked all the time, what do the plants think about Graywater? Well, it depends on the plants and the plant species. Tomatoes, for example, have a higher stem and leaf biomass with Graywater in comparison to tap water irrigated plants. The root shoot ratio is also significantly higher with Graywater on tomato plants. Would I say the same thing about my Daphnes or rhododendrons or camellias? No, I would not. So certain plants are able to take the Graywater and use it as a very beneficial product to increase root shoot ratios, but some plants do not. So you need to be careful about that, because too much salt, same as us, too much salt in our diet is definitely not good. And we have to be careful about what types of things we are discharging in our rainwater system. So things like paints, hair dyes, and harsh cleaners, cleansers and such should never enter the Graywater system. And they should be routed through the municipal sewer. These substances can not only kill plants, but they can also kill the soil. The soil is a living, breathing thing and contains a significant amount of organisms. And so you definitely do not want to kill your soil. The water from a kitchen sink and toilet are considered black water, not Graywater. They should not be recycled in the yard. They should be sent through the sewer system. Shower and bathtub water are considered Graywater. So Graywater friendly cleaning products should be used for cleaning the shower and the tub. You never want to use anything with a toxic chemical in it. What's in it? Well, we can look at Graywater. We know we have nitrogen, phosphorus, and a little bit of potassium, along with sodium in Graywater. Nitrogen and phosphorus are beneficial to plant material. Sodium, not so much, and it really depends on the amount of sodium that is in the system in terms of how it affects the system. So where do we use the Graywater? Well, we use Graywater to water trees, bushes, berry patches. Berries really like Graywater. Their root shoot ratio and their stem leaf biomass increases under Graywater. Annuals seem to like it very much. It is difficult to water a lawn using Graywater because we're flood irrigating, and so pinpoint use of Graywater on a lawn is not recommended. In fact, at this point, you should not even have a lawn. So substances to avoid, yes or no? So anything with boron in it is toxic to plants. Sodium, if you look at the ingredients on a container and it has the word sodium in it, it should not be used in your Graywater. Chlorine bleach is detrimental to plants. If you're looking to bleach, hydrogen peroxide is an acceptable alternative. Water softeners. Water softeners contain sodium chloride or potassium chloride, and they should not be used. Antibacterial soaps and cleaners is a no-no. Whiteners and softeners, nope, should not use them. Titanium oxides, chromium oxide, artificial colors, F, D, and C colors should not be used. Synthetic fragrances and artificial preservatives should not be allowed in Graywater. When we talk about chemicals in gray water, if your grandmother picked up this container and she didn't understand what was in it, don't use it. So Kara Geegan, what is it? I don't know. My grandmother doesn't know what it is, so I don't use it. What do you use? Well, some of the laundry detergents that are highly recommended are Oasis, BioPack, BioClean, Life Tree, eCover, Mountain Green, Vasca, Avoid, Tide, All, Arm & Hammer, Woolite, and Ivory Snow. Those are ones you should avoid. I'll go through the avoid again. Tide, All, Arm & Hammer, Woolite, Ivory Snow. So those are no-nos. You also avoid Clorox, borax, limit the amount of BioClean back out. It does have a sodium percarbonate and some enzymes in it that can be harmful for the plants. BioClean oxygen bleach, nope, it's sodium sulfate. Body soaps and shampoos. Dr. Bronner's. Dr. Bronner's has been around a long time. And you can get it in both bar and liquid form. That is excellent for a gray water system. And Aubrey makes an organic shampoo that works quite well. Kirk's Castile bar soap has sodium in it, so you want to limit that one. Dial is a no-no. It has sodium lauryl sulfate, sodium chloride. It does have an antibacterial agent and some synthetic surfactants. So definitely Dial is out. Ivory, Palmolive, Joy, and Dawn, not great. So limit the use of those. When we're talking about gray water systems, you can use the gray water in fruit and vegetables. They do not need fresh potable water. They will quickly remove bacteria and contaminants. Experience has shown that ornamentals, natives, and food-producing plants do thrive on gray water, especially when irrigated every day with gray water. Some sensible precautions should be taken, of course, eco-friendly detergents, as I've mentioned a number of times before, so that it doesn't contaminate your plants. Gray water systems are low tech. I mean, essentially the water is coming out of the washing machine and goes into the yard. This is a very basic setup to move the water from the washing machine to the outdoors. And you're essentially using a 1-inch irrigation line. We're going to talk about some valving systems in just a minute, which allows the water to either be sent outside or to the sewer. Most cities have a very easy permit process, if at all. So certain cities do need permitting. Check with your local city to see whether they do or not. And it's usually an over-the-counter permit. This system here that we're seeing is a branch drain system and can be a little more complicated. You also have branch drain systems in the house. So the water is coming from multiple sources, laundry, shower, and sinks. The key to that is finding a pipe that is common to the laundry, shower, and sinks, and it is not the black water line. If you don't know which pipe to cut into, you may want to get a plumber out on site to have a look at it and help you with the installation. Laundry to landscaped and branch drain systems are gravity driven. Do not rely on the washing machine to pump the water. You'll burn that pump out. you should use gravity systems as much as possible. One of the most basic irrigation methods and use of gray water is to use buckets. I have 3 buckets in my shower. They're 5-gallon buckets, and I use them to collect water as the shower is warming up. You can also use buckets coming out of your washing machine. Set up a series of buckets to collect and distribute the gray water. This method is probably the cheapest method of all. And while it is inexpensive, it is also very inefficient because most people are overwater using the bucket system. Subsurface dripper lines are the most efficient method of using a gray water system. And they can also move water by capillary action. There is a product called Irrigray, IRRIGRAY, and it is a dripper line that is used in Australia for gray water systems. And it is available in the United States. 90% of the irrigation market in the United States now has Irrigray. It is manufactured and is available here in the United States. Australia, by the by, is way ahead of us in using water by leaps and bounds. We're just kind of figuring this thing out. So when we look at gray water, this is the essential setup for a gray water system. Using this system, the gray water is gravity irrigated from the washing machine and moved outside. And as I said before, do not rely on that washing machine pump because it is not designed to pressurize an irrigation system. You will burn it out if you rely on that pump. The system should be a gravity feed looking like, I'll show you some pictures of what it should look like. This is the heart of a gray water system. This is called a Jandy valve. They're used extensively in pools. It's a valve that has 3 inlets or outlets, depending on how you move this Jandy valve lever. So if you have your washing machine water going in the top part of the Jandy valve, in one configuration, it's going to the sewer. In another configuration, it's going to your landscape. The Jandy valve is about $60, and that is the heart of the system. You want to get a Jandy valve that is forever lubricated. That's why they cost a little bit more, like $60. You can get a cheaper one. You can get a 3-way brass valve, but a Jandy valve is much more efficient in moving water. So this is essentially what it looks like in setting up a laundry to landscape system. You can go to Ecology Artisans and this diagram is available. The heart of the system is, of course, this 3-way valve. Oops, I want to go back to this. They're recommending a brass. I don't recommend a brass. I recommend the Jandy valve. It's much more efficient and will, in my opinion, last a lot longer. It's made for pools. But you can substitute a brass 1-inch 3-way if you want. So part of the water, if you're doing diapers or using chlorine bleach or such, then you set up your Jandy valve to move the water to the sewer. If in fact you're using, you want to establish the gray water, then you move that Jandy valve to move the water to the outside. This gives you a nice, neat diagram of all the parts you need to build this system. It gives you the sizes. If you're using a 1-inch Jandy valve, then you just need to adapt some of these to work. If you're going to establish it through a drip system, it tells you what you need. You need some PVC cement, some Teflon tape, and a few parts, but not much else. This system does have a vacuum brake up here, this G, and that vacuum brake should be used. It's easy to use. And when you're building this system, use Schedule 40 pipe. Don't use cheap pipe. You want to build this thing once. If you use a class 200 or a 315 pipe, this pipe will break down over time. You want to Schedule 40. A little more expensive, but what's more expensive, your labor or the pipe themselves? You want to do it one time. Essentially, you're popping a hole in the wall. You want to seal it. Once you make that hole in the wall, and then run your pipe outside to your system. The system is rather inexpensive, and you'll recover your investment in a very short time in not only water savings, but in the health of your plants. One of the considerations when you are thinking about a gray water system is what type of soil do you have? In our area, we have primarily a heavy clay soil, which means that the water has a tendency to pool and puddle because it cannot percolate into the ground quick enough. So that is a definite factor in determining how you're going to disperse this water. If you have a clay soil, you want to avoid ponding and pooling of the water because this has issues in terms of mosquitoes. They need very little water to lay their eggs and hatch out. So you definitely do not want this water to be puddling and pooling. You want the soil to absorb it quickly. And that's why I recommend a rain garden. If you're moving this water through the stones in a rain garden, then there's no worries about any kind of vector issues with mosquitoes. So this water will percolate. You're essentially planting your gray water in the same method as planting your rainwater. If you do have heavy clay soils, that means that the discharge points of your gray water system need to be more spread out to keep the ponding to a minimum, or as I said, run it through a rain garden type system.
Hey, Frank.
Yep.
Hi, sorry to interrupt.
Not a problem.
We do have a question relating to this slide. They say, what type of sealant is used when passing the line through the house wall from the machine to the yard?
You can use that same sealant that the electricians use or insulating sealant. It's a foam. You can buy a foam system and press it in there and it expands. I think it's called expanding foam, as a matter of fact. It's used a lot in sealing holes. You want to keep the critters out, especially rodents.
Great, thank you so much.
Any other questions, concerns, problems, issues?
I think that's it for now. Thank you.
All right. So this is essentially what your system could look like. We have these basins, and they're called mulch basins. And the water coming through your gray water system comes into these mulch basins, and it's essentially a box that's in the ground that has mulch in it, which keeps the water from puddling. It also feeds the soil organisms. The fungi in the soil love to eat mulch. And these boxes are capped, so there's no chance of mosquitoes vectoring into these areas. You'll notice that these mulch boxes are close to the plant material. They are in the ground. So all you're seeing are these caps. And the water percolates into the planted area. So this is one way to do it, or as I said before, run it through your rain garden. What's cheaper Well, this system is cheaper. A rain garden is much more aesthetic. It's prettier. And you're doing double duty because you're taking that water from your downspouts and planting the rain as well as planting the gray water. A gray water system is the simplest, least expensive, lowest effort way to get the most gray water out onto the home landscape most effectively. Gray water systems work. It is simple and low cost to build. It's been widely adopted now. It is accommodated in building codes. It's subject to numerous government rebates. There's a lot of workshops and training on how to do it. You're essentially cutting a pipe, putting in a Jandy valve that determines where you're moving that water. If you're uncomfortable doing that, there are a number of companies in the area that specialize in only doing gray water work. They're licensed, they're insured and bonded. You can call one of those up if you're not comfortable with building your own gray water system. Many new homes are plumbing for gray water. I know a number of homes down in the Palo Alto area. They're doing remodels and building new homes, and the gray water system is built into the plumbing of the home. So we're getting to that point now, which is a very good thing. So this is essentially what the mulch basin is about. I showed you that with the plant material back in this. This is what it is. You're putting in about 4 inches of mulch in a hole, and the pipe drops into this discharge bin, and the water just percolates out of the mulch basin. You can see the drip line of the plant on the right. You can put a paving stone marker over it if you like, or just use a regular box lid if you want. But the mulch basin is a very efficient way of watering. This is essentially what it looks like. So the gray water is being pumped out through this poly into these mulch basins. The mulch basin, the water is carried over to the drip line of the plants. Using this type of system on fruit trees is very efficient. Roots, and I'm sure most of you know this, roots have a thing called apical meristemic tissue. This apical meristemic tissue has a charge on it. The root has a charge on it. Water has a charge on it. And the apical meristemic tissue on the root system is designed to hunt for water and minerals. If you're discharging water into these mulch basins, the roots are going to find them and pick up that water. It's how they stay alive. So if you look at this and say, well, that's quite a bit of distance between the root system of this plant and this fruit tree, well, the fruit tree will find that water. That's their job. That's what the roots are paid to do. So this is water coming out of a mulch basin. You can see how it's just trickling into this mulch basin and essentially filling this system up. So this is the most efficient way to use gray water. I want to show you some things that are coming down the line. As I said, many countries are a little bit ahead of us on this program, but the United States is catching up. Many entrepreneurs are thinking about water. So those of you who saw the movie The Big Short, that guy lives in San Jose and he's investing in water systems. He's the guy that made the $1.7 billion on shorting the housing market. The Warren Buffett is buying water. He's investing in water. These people know that water is the new gold, and they're investing in industry that will benefit the use of Graywater. This is one such system. This is a Graywater system that is using tanks and a pressure system to move water to plants. I get it. It says city water over there, but you're using Graywater also. So you're using city water and Graywater. You're mixing them, running them through a filter, using a pumping system. This system is on the market and is available. It's called a pressurized system. It can irrigate a 7,000 square foot property in a single zone. It will pump water 25 feet up a hill. So if hill is a problem for you on your property, then you may want to look into a pressurized system. The system itself is about $400. When we look at the cost of water, what's our return of investment? Well, look at your water bill, see how much you're using. Figure that for every person in your house, you're generating 25 gallons of Graywater a day. If there's 4 people in the house, that is 100 gallons a day that you're paying the water company for, which equates to about 3,000 gallons a month. So you can quickly figure out your return of investment of $400 if you bought a pressurized system to manage. The good news about a pressurized system is that you can use a controller. You use the pump master valve setting on the controller to start your pumps, and that also starts your irrigation valves. Another use of Graywater is this sink positive system. This is on the market now. So you go to the bathroom, flush the toilet, wash your hands, and the water from that basin goes into the toilet tank so that it is used again as part of a flush. It is also beneficial because the soap in that water keeps the toilet clean. It saves money and uses the water twice. This is an Aquas Graywater system, and this system sits right under your sink, and it has a holding tank. It takes the water out of the P trap. It goes into the tank, and then the water is pumped back into the toilet. So this device is used in every bathroom to flush your toilets. That holding tank has a filter in it, and it's designed to hold gray water. This unit costs about $200, but the upfront savings on how many times you flush your toilet is amazing. And one of the things that I suggest that you talk with your family about is how many times does that toilet get flushed every day? I think you'll be amazed when you start adding up the numbers. Hang a piece of paper in your bathroom, just tack it to the wall, tape it to the wall using some blue tape. Every time somebody flushes the toilet, put a mark on that paper. At the end of the day, count the marks. And I think you'll be amazed how many times that toilet gets flushed. Even though we do have low flow toilets nowadays, you're still using water. This is another company that's investing in clean water components for homes, as well as Wahaso. They're looking at water harvesting systems, and there's a website, wahasho.com. This is Aqua to use, and this is a Graywater reuse system. And it does provide a number of different solutions for Graywater reuse needs. It has been shown to save approximately 40,000 gallons annually for a family of 4 with this system. The system is not that expensive. It essentially looks like this. You have a unit that sits outside the house, and it looks like an air conditioning system. It takes the water through the filtration system and pumps it back into the house. So it's taking all the gray water, even washing machine, sinks, bathtubs, showers, everything. You can get a treatment and disinfectant part of the Aqua to use that allows you to store it and reuse the water back into washing machine, sink, bath, and shower. So this is a pretty good system. This is Rewater. Rewater was founded in Palo Alto in 1990, and they are providing legal gray water systems on not only the commercial end, but on the residential end. You can get this gray water kit from Rewater. It consists of a surge tank that can be buried. It's got a bolt-on lid, a waterproof grommets. It's got a wastewater backflow device or valve. It's got a high-pressure submersible pump, a float switch, and a bag filter. Fairly easy to install. This system is for a larger it's a larger system using a surge tank, and it is about $1,100 to install this type of system. But in a family of 4, you can recoup the cost fairly quickly. This is Rewater, or no, this is Clivus. Clivus has a system out that's quite efficient. And it is used in large, I need to go back one, used in large residential systems to reuse the water that's generated in commercial systems. This system will accommodate 18,000 to 65,000 uses per year, and it has a composter in it that sits in the basement and has a storage tank for storing the water. This is quite an interesting system. They also have a gray water system for all non-toilet fixtures that is available. This is the Clivus system, Clivus Multrum, and the water is pumped to a collection tank. They call their collection tank the dosing basin, and the gray water is sent there without filtration, and then it's placed into an outdoor irrigation where the water is pumped to the plant materials. So they have a number of different systems. This is another one of their systems at one of the parks. Nexus Water is another company that's working on Graywater. Essentially what Nexus's premise is that water and heat is going down the drain, and Nexus claims to save 70% of all domestic wastewater, all gray water, and it also admits to saving about 9% of total US carbon emissions using their system. And this is what their system looks like. This is a residential system. The tank itself is will hold 75 gallons of gray water. Up to 200 gallons of gray water can be purchased using the Nexus system. They do have a filter system in here. It does meet California building codes. and is fairly easy to install. It's just a matter of plumbing. Nexus E-Water looks like this. It looks like an air conditioning unit, and this is they call it a crystal clear, near potable quality water for storage and reuse. As the technology gets better, these will become potable water delivery systems. This system can handle well over 200 gallons a day. It treats shower, bath, sinks, washing machine water only, and the water can be reused as part of the local codes in your area. It automatically monitors and records recycling also. Nexus Heater, this is the Nexus E-Heater, and this particular system is used to heat hot water for your home. It's supposed to be very energy efficient, 80-gallon storage capacity, and heats water up to 120 degrees. It also has a refrigerant loop, so there's no contact between clean and dirty water. It's glass lined and heavy steel construction. Nexus E-Water claims to save 34% water, pumping it back into the house, which they say will decrease the sewerage amount by 70% and 75 less water heating using their system. So this is considered a drought-proof system using Graywater. Again, the data needs to be evaluated and definitely verified. Again, this is a very simple system. This is the premise that most people are going to be working on, but be ready for whole house integration. It is coming. No one ever believes that there is such a thing as toilet to tap, but there is. The water that you put into the toilet today will come back to you tomorrow. And so with whole house integration, we're seeing a level of complexity that is dependent on technology, using solar, dual flush toilets, faucet aerators, hot water recirc, high efficiency water heating systems, Energy Star appliances, energy efficient heating and cooling system, energy efficient lighting, Graywater recycling systems. Many of these systems are in our homes now. We just need to add the Graywater recycling piece to get whole house integration. And it's coming. So what is driving the system? Well, shortages. We're possibly going into another drought. Everybody is speculating whether we're getting rain this year or not. Speculations are that by 2040, we will run out of water. And that is a dire prediction. We know that with the changes in weather and climate due to global warming, that our rain is changing in California. Our rain systems are changing. We need to become very used to drought. And that being said, we need to change the way we think about water. We need to abandon our use of water as waste and think of it as some of the investors in these systems are thinking of it as the new gold, because it is rapidly becoming that. What else is driving this system? Well, this is a map of the world's water. These are water stress by country. You can see that the United States has moved into the medium to high stress area. We were at one time a low stress country, but we're moving into the higher areas. It will not take very long for us to move into a high stress area. With the continuing droughts across the United States, we may have already reached that plateau. And so we need to be very conscious of how we're using water. It's one garden at a time. I tell my students that you can save the world one garden at a time. And that's very true when we're talking about water. The other part that's driving the system is money. Interestingly enough, Americans spent $15 billion on bottled water. It's just water. It's nothing special, but we spent $15 billion on bottled water. As the temperature rises, we know that there is a good chance that some of the world's biggest rivers are going to disappear. The Ganges, the Yangtze, the Mekong, they supply water to 2.4 billion people. And they predict that by 2035, some of these rivers could disappear. China is investing $128 billion on water infrastructure in the next 5 years. I know we've been hearing a lot about infrastructure bill on the political football side. This water needs to be invested. Absolutely. We're losing the battle on our infrastructure. And if we don't pay attention to our water infrastructure, there could be problems. This could be prophetic, unfortunately. That's my presentation for tonight. I'm sure there's some questions out there.
There we go. Before we get to the questions, we do have a poll. And Frank, if you wouldn't mind launching this, clicking on the poll button.
All right. So this is before seminar, and now we're going after.
Correct.
And I'm launching the poll now. It is launched.
Thank you. Great. So for this poll question, after hearing our presentation from Frank, how likely are you to install a laundry to landscape gray water system, or even any gray water system at that point? We can consider it, yeah, not just necessarily laundry to landscape, but just any gray water system. Would you say you're very likely, somewhat unlikely, or not at all likely? And it's okay.
So 8 out of 16 have responded. 9 out of 16, 10 out of 16.
There we go.
11. Anybody who responds gets a free cup of coffee from City of Sunnyvale. You go down to their landscape maintenance division, and there's a coffee pot in there. Bring your own cup. So 13 of 16, 81% have participated. Wait a few more minutes, seconds. 14. Somebody should be playing the Jeopardy music.
That's a good one. We should do that next time.
Yeah, there you go. 14 of 16, 87% have responded. I suspect that that's going to be our top. Anybody else want to jump in? And should I end the poll? Okay, I'm going to end the poll.
All right.
And share results.
Okay. So I did take a screenshot of what was the before workshop. So let's see. So we had 3 people who were very likely before and 12 people who were somewhat likely. and one person who was somewhat unlikely. And now it looks like we have fewer people who said that they were somewhat likely,
I
and
talk
then
people
more
out of
people somewhat unlikely.
it. How did I talk people out of this? You guys need to look at your water bills. Because water is not going down. I can guarantee you that.
All right. Well, we still have a lot of people who were either or still very likely, or somewhat likely. So you only convinced a few people, Frank.
I need to sharpen my saw here.
All right. So now we'll just jump into Q&A. Yes. So if you have any questions at all about this presentation, feel free to pop them in the Q&A and we can ask our resident expert.
Oh, good. You put the installers in there. That's good.
Yeah, and then after this workshop, I know there were a lot of resources that were mentioned, but we're compiling all of them together. So all of the things that Frank has shared with us, I'm collecting, writing them down, and we also have some additional resources. Like Graywater Action is also a fantastic organization that does a lot of Graywater work.
Yep, there's quite a bit of stuff out there. And if you're really serious about saving water, get Brad Lancaster's book. Excellent read. He has diagrams, everything is in there. It's an outstanding book.
Yeah, as well as I think Oasis Designs as well from Art Ludwig.
Yep.
Yeah.
Brad Lancaster lives in Arizona, and when you look at the before and after pictures of his home down there and what he's done to plant the rain, it's phenomenal. Really
Yeah,
is.
definitely. Yeah, and then also these books are available at public libraries as well. So if you don't want to purchase them on Amazon, you can definitely check out your local library.
Yep.
All right, so I'll kick it off with the question. So what is maintenance on the system with mulch basins?
Not much. It's a very inexpensive system to install. It never really clogs. It's one of the simplest systems to install. It's essentially pipe. The mulch basins, you can actually make the mulch basins out of water bottles. If you don't want to get something efficient or official, you can actually make them out of water bottles. And I have seen people do it on some fairly large orchards. So, and whatever the cost of the mulch is, and you can get that free, chipdrop.com. If you go to their website, you can get chip delivered to your house free. So you want to look into that. So the cost is fairly inexpensive.
Wow, that's amazing. Thank you for those resources. We have another question that says, why are bathroom sinks considered black water?
Well, the codes designate them as black water because of the types of chemicals that we're putting into those sinks. If you're conscientious about the types of soaps and stuff that you wear, and the kinds of makeup that you're using, then it's considered gray water. But you have to be conscious about those kinds of things. I teach an integrated pest management class, and one of my students did a study on women's makeup and the amount of chemicals that are in women's makeup. And it was astounding, the kinds of chemicals that were there. It turned a lot of people around in terms of what they were using on their face and their bodies. And so that's one of the reasons that sinks are listed as black water.
Yeah, there's also fluorinated chemicals called PFAS.
Yeah.
That are in a lot of, not just makeup, but also Teflon and your your non-stick pans. Those are really toxic chemicals too that are getting a lot of traction and starting to be regulated.
Yeah, especially PFAS. PFAS is on the chopping block, it looks like.
Mhm.
And I don't know whether you guys have heard from the governor is going to announce the end of the neonicotinoids in January,
Mm,
which is a huge step.
yeah. All right, so we have another question. How evenly is water distributed across the system to the distant ends of the system?
That's really going to be dependent on how you build it. You can, if you have a larger family, obviously you're going to produce more gray water and you're going to have more water to move, which means it's going to disperse further out. If you're using a piping system, it's a matter of how you pipe that water out to the far systems. There are people who use valves to shut off water going to certain plants so that they can irrigate more plants using the Graywater system. If you're using drip systems, it's just a matter of two fittings, a turner on or offer fitting and a T. That's it. And you can shut water off. I have that system in my veggie garden on the side of the house. I have 6 turner on or offers, and depending on what I want to irrigate, I turn those on and off. So what I'm doing, parsley likes a little bit more water than a lot of my onions and chards and radishes. So I'll cut off the water to the chard, the radishes and the onions and shove it down to the parsley. It's simple stuff. It's Tinker Toys, Legos or Tinker Toys, my generation, Legos, your generation.
Great, thank you. And then we have a question. I'd like to learn even more. What is the name of the course that you teach at Foothill?
I teach 23 different courses at Foothill. We have a horticulture program there that teaches, right now I'm teaching landscape construction. I have 35 students in that class. We're teaching students how to construct patios, decks, paver patios. There's some irrigation involved in that course also. I teach veggies, how to grow veggies. I'll be doing a seminar for Gamble Garden. Can I plug Gamble Garden? The 13th of November on how to sprout seeds. I teach irrigation. We teach landscape design. In the spring, we'll do California natives. We'll teach you approximately 100 California natives. We teach shrubs, bamboos and palms, perennials and annuals. We have a full course load up at Foothill. And I teach 23 of the courses. We also teach design. So if you have a bent towards design, you may want to just check out our design courses. We have a landscape architect. His name is John Black. He's outstanding. He's really a good architect. He's teaching our design courses currently. And we're bringing another teacher on in January who's going to be teaching all the drawing and perspective classes. So we have a full course load. We're also teach irrigation. I'm teaching irrigation on Fridays from 9 to 4. If you think that irrigation systems are mysterious, you need to take this class because I start from point of connection and get you all the way to how to troubleshoot your system. So we do have a full course load at Foothill College. Go to our website, Foothill Hort, and you'll see what we offer.
Great, yeah, and I also popped a link in the chat for Frank's information too. So if you want to check that out, then I'll also be including that in the resources afterwards.
Okay.
Great. So our next question is, someone is interested in helping with the efforts with the horticulture class that you're starting at the Juvenile Center. Is there a way for this person to get involved?
Oh, wow. Geez, I didn't expect that question. Yes, shoot me an email and we'll just see. We're in the beginning stages of this thing right now. We just looked at the facility today at Blue Ridge and the one in San Jose, Osborne. And we're formulating what we're actually going to be teaching, how many hours they want us to teach. But yeah, shoot me an email. I think you guys have my email somewhere, don't you?
Yeah, we can share that. Do you prefer your Hotmail email or your Foothill?
Foothill. Yeah.
Foothill,
Niccoli
okay.
Francis, yeah.
Okay, I will put down the link in the chat right now.
That's the easiest way. I pay more attention to that one than my personal email. But
Great.
yeah, we'll see what they want us to do down there.
Yeah, that's exciting.
Oh yeah, I think it is. I've been trying to get this in place since 2013.
Wow. Yay. Well, finally coming into fruition.
Yeah, well, the wheels grind slow when you're dealing with these programs.
Yeah, I'm sure. We do have another question that says, my house is surrounded by concrete patios and sidewalks. How do I get the water to the other side of the concrete?
Oh boy, that's a hard one. If you want a simple answer, I would put containers on the concrete and irrigate those containers. I have found that tomatoes love black 15-gallon containers because those black containers heat up during the day. If you don't mind a hose running across your concrete, then I would do that. Treat it like a hose that you're going to coil up every day and connect it up to your Graywater system or to your rain garden and move the water that way. I wish I had a better answer for that one.
All right, so we don't have any more questions right now. We still have 4 minutes left until the end of the program. So if you have any questions, now is the time to put them in. But in the meanwhile, I'll just start talking about next steps. So this webinar is being recorded and will be uploaded onto Bosca's YouTube page. It'll probably take a few days for that, but once that's uploaded, I will send the follow-up email with the links to all of the resources that we talked about today, including the books that Frank mentioned. Let's see. And I'm not seeing any more questions, so I guess we could probably call it a night.
We could.
Yeah, all right. Well, yeah, thank you everyone for joining us this evening and hope to see you at a future workshop. Thank you so much, Frank.
All righty. See you later.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Have a good night.
Bye-bye.